Hey guys, we're back. We're about to make our next project for this month's steampunk, and I've got some things that you're going to need. I can tell you a little bit anyway as we're going, because even I'm not entirely sure. What we're going to try to make is a lamp. And I'm going to be using, you know, I'm always using these little candle lights right here. These little battery lights, and we're going to go with that. So, I'm not sure how this is going to turn out, but we're going to try it anyway. You are going to need... I'm going to be using some wintergreen paint, all the metallics that we've had, the gunmetal, silver, the gold, the brass, copper, and all this. Let me grab these up here. King's gold. So we're going to be needing all this metallic paint. I've got some odds and ends here, some more of these gears and what all. I don't know what I'm going to do with this, but I'll figure something out. You're going to need 4 of the silver bottle caps. Now, if you get anything but silver, you're going to have to paint them. You're going to need a dowel rod. You're going to need a drill. Mine's got a Dremel tool in it this time because, well, some things happen and every drill bit in the house is broken now. Long story. And you're going to need one of my wooden slats that I'm going to sacrifice from my painting. And this is where we're going to start. You're also going to need some glow-in-the-dark green paint, some black paint. I think I've got some blue in here for some reason. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to start now. I got to figure out as we're doing this, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue that, I'm going to paint this lid and glue it into place. It's a craft bottle. I got that for $1 from Dollar Tree, but the first thing we got to do, and you're going to need a paint rag like I'm about to grab. Now the brown paint comes in because we're going to try to attempt to turn a cheap piece of plywood into a rich sort of walnut colored showpiece. So here's how this happens. Got some brown paint here. This is standard brown. Let me go ahead and get this where it's not going to tip over while we're doing it. There we go. Tighten that up so I don't want it moving around while I'm painting. Alright. And I really wish I'd quit leaving my pinpoint brush in the water. That doesn't do good things for that, and this brush doesn't get watered. Alright, we're going to go with our big fat brush here because we're going to be sloshing on some paint and then wiping it down. Kind of like you do when you're doing a backdrop for a painting if you've watched Artistic Impressions with Michael. You follow the grain with this. Always when you're painting with wood, you always want to paint it along the grain. At least where possible. So you'll see you'll see the effect is actually quite, I had to go a little bit against the grain there, but the effect will be breathtaking. So I'm going to try not to make this quite as busy as I did the vase. Now, we're going to take our cloth, as I've got right here, my old paint cloth, and we're going to wipe it down. And we'll see if that stains where I want it, or do I want it a little richer and a little darker. And I may just decide to go in and do another layer like that with some burnt umber. I mean, you can see it's already looking nice. But let's see what we can do if we add a little burnt umber to that and do it again. See, I've got some burnt umber right here too. I also have a color. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it, but we're going to use this too if I can. Now, go ahead and rinse off our fat brush to get the brown paint off. I know the colors are similar, but I don't want to cross-contaminate my paints. So, and this is, by the way, an episode of Catapult Time. I know I just kind of jumped right into the business of crafting, but this is Catapult Time. I'm still looking on trying to, I've got to get some time to set up and storing up some material to build a new intro, because we've kind of advanced way beyond catapults. But we're still launching your imagination, so I guess that's a great thing. Now, trying to keep my hand out of the shot best as I can. Now, you see how that much darkens it up? Now, let's see if we can... Before it was just sort of a mahogany, kind of a yellowish mahogany type thing, and I want it to be much darker. Richer, almost like, you know, like a black walnut or something. Alright, let's see what happens. Oh yeah, much better. Look at that. Ain't that just a pretty piece of wood right there? Another dry section and just keep on polishing. Because what you're wanting to do is not wanting to cover up the wood, you're wanting the wood to look more like itself, and I think that fits the bill. Now, our next step, we're going to have to drill again, but we're going to be doing that here in a minute. We've got our Dremel tool. Be very careful. We're going to drill it, say, I want it drilled right about here. So, kids, if you're at home and you need to do this, get your parents to help you. Here goes nothing. Now we're going to have to clean off some sawdust. Really should have thought of that before I began, but what are you going to do? Now we're going to go back around that hole with a little paint because I want to get rid of any kind of new paint fill on this. So let's grab our cloth because we're not quite done with the paint. We're going to be using the paint quite a bit here. Just various colors. Alright, now close this up and we will wipe it down. There we go. Now, go ahead and plug in your glue gun. That's going to be your next step. Now, while we're waiting for the glue gun to heat up, let's go ahead and look at our next step, which is our dowel rod, which is going to fit right in there. We're going to need a pair of scissors at this point because we're going to cut her down. And we want it cut about yay big. I'd rather have too much than too little in this case, because you can cut some more off, but you can't put it back, remember. And that's going to fit in place right here, and that's going to be for our Tesla coil. Let me make sure this is drilled through, and it is. I'm going to go ahead and hit it from the other side, though, with the drill, just to make doggone sure. There we go. Now, see, now that's nice. Now, what we're going to do while we're waiting is we're going to paint the spindle here. And I'll wipe it down with some stuff. We're going to go with some, I think I'm going to go with some gunmetal here. And that's dark, kind of darkish, grayish silver. See how many minutes I got left and what our power is on this. And it doesn't say anything about the power, so maybe we're in good shape and we won't have our regularly scheduled power outage. Alright. So here's what we're going to do. First, I'm going to clean off my brush. We're going to kind of come up here, and I'm not going to hit all of it because I don't want all of it hit. But we are going to... It's a tricky business to make wood simulate metal. It can be done, but it is tricky. Now, I'm going to go ahead and top this back up, and now we're going to take our trusty cloth and wipe her down. And because I need it to be, it doesn't have to be a perfect silver, just enough silver to kind of hint. Now, seal this up and I will show you how these are going to work. Now, you see how this glue gun's coming? Nope, glue gun's not, well, it's almost ready. We'll be able to work with it. Alright. This piece here is going to fit in here. You may have to jam it a little bit. And that's going to have some things going on. Now, I'm going to show you what we're going to do as far as the bottle cap here in a minute. I'm going to put a little bit of glue around the edges. I got to be cautious because I don't want stringers everywhere on this. Now, let that dry a minute. And let's go ahead and do what we need to with this last bottle cap. I've already drilled the other three. So, and this is where it gets tricky. And again, parents, you might need to help your kids if they're doing this project. So here goes nothing. Oh, and there goes my glue gun on the floor. Naturally. Now, go ahead and grab our glue gun and put it back up here because it got tangled up in my cords. Now, that's another reason why you need an adult to do this. Or at least a reasonable facsimile. Gotta see if I can wheedle out some of this and wallow out some of this extra stuff. So as you can see, we've still got some material hanging up in there. So, go in here and just kind of, there we go. There we go. It's kind of a B surface, so it's not going to be that big a deal. The only one of these bottle caps you're going to have to paint is you're going to have to paint the top of this. So, first thing we're going to do is go ahead and put some glue right around this mouthpiece right here, around this hole. And that's going to slide into place down the thing. Come on now. Why is it not catching it? Oh, come on. Okay, I'm going to have to wallow it out a little more. Yep, we're going to have to wallow her out a little more. It's not wanting to go in the hole. Which means we're going to need our drill back up here, which is sort of a nuisance, really. But let's see if we can wallow it out a little more. Fire in the hole. Well, a little more than I intended, but we'll make it work. Let's see if I can get it off of my drill now. Thank you. Now, let's see if that fits on our stick now. It ought to. Let's see if it does. And it does. Now we put a little bit of glue right here. Because I don't want it to be a loose fit, because basically what we're trying to simulate here is like a Tesla coil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little glue around the next place that I want it so that it'll dry. I'm going to give it a second to dry before I put this next one in place. Now, so it'll take me that long to figure out how I'm going to get it on there. Okay. So you got this thing sticking up right here. Let me go ahead and cut this loose here. There we go. Hopefully it didn't make the hole too large, but we'll see. Now, we're going to go ahead and glue that into place. Let's see. Now, we'll do the same thing with the next one. I got to come in and poke out some holes because we've apparently didn't quite get it all knocked loose out of that thing. So, just kind of very gently use your scissors to knock out the hole if you need to. We're going to go ahead and put our glue in place. I need enough glue up here to kind of stop it in its tracks, but I don't want it so far down that it won't come in. So there we go. And that's a good tight fit, and that's nice. Okay. We're going to put it right there. We're going to have to straighten it up just a hair. So don't want it being overly... There we go. Well, it's about as straight as it's going to get, I'm afraid. I may have to hold it while I'm letting this glue do its thing. Okay, now. See, what we're trying to simulate here is a Tesla coil. You know, invented by Nikola Tesla, the electrician. And that's going to be a short sort of thing. See, the next one will fit like that. So I Actually, I'm not pleased with the way this one's working. I'm just hoping I don't pull the whole shebang out when I do this. I didn't want this one pushed down this far either. There we go. Now, I'll see if I can get this a little bit neater. Because I'm trying to keep it straight. Now, maybe I should have glued it on before I assembled the... before I put this thing into the main base, but it is what it is. Like I said, there we go. Now, it's not too bad. I might have to... so you can see where it's hooked into place down there. Now, I'll go ahead and do this to the last one. Put a little glue on the inside and on the top side. Then we'll have to come in with a pair of scissors and shear it off where at the top, but when I get it to where I want it. There we go. Now, let's go ahead and get our silver out while this thing's drying. And yes, it's going to look right when we're done, hopefully. So I don't think it should be that low, so there you are. Now, let's go ahead and get our silver paint out. And grab our brush, because we're going to cover over the bottle cap symbol up at the top with a little silver paint to kind of, and maybe even refresh this paint that's up here along the spindle. So, even though I'm going to be cutting off some of that. Now, go ahead and shear this piece here off. Now, so we're going to put something up on top. There we go. Snap that off and throw that in discard. Now, I'm trying to get these straightened up because I want them to be about as straight as you can get them. Now, let's go ahead and put something up here on top. Now, you could always put maybe a bulb or something right up there, but then this kind of, I don't know, that might work. Let me noodle over that a minute. Put a red bead right up there on top. Now, I don't know if it'll fit, but we'll try it and see. Actually, got room for one more up there on it. And then we can glue that. I'm going to glue that little dome. That dome, by the way, came from a gumball machine, so. And we've used them for a bunch of different projects in the past. Now, if you really wanted to get fancy schmancy, you could also use this metallic colored glue sticks. I do have some. I just didn't want to use them here. Now, that's actually sort of cool, sort of mad science-y, isn't it? Now, let's go ahead and look at our the next phase of this project. We'll go ahead and unplug the glue gun for a minute and the drill both. We don't really need them now, or the glue. Alright guys, I think I found how we're going to make this happen. I'm going to use this glass jar thing over the top and see if that'll work. I do not have a proper jar lid, and I'm not going to take this one off to do it. Even though, I wonder something. Nope, it's too small. It was worth a shot. Okay, well, let's see if we can do this. Alright. Just going to pour a little bit of this in here. Then we're going to close this up. And then we're going to see if I can slosh this around. And see if I can get it to roll with it. Nope, it's going to have to be brushed, I'm afraid. Well, I'll just have to slather it on pretty good. let it dry. Then we're going to have to let it dry a bit. So we'll have to come back to this one in a few minutes. I've got enough in here. I'm going to see if I can slash it up against the sides. Didn't want to brush because the brush strokes will kind of reveal themselves over time, and I don't really want that. It's not what I was aiming for. I want this thing to have kind of an iridescent green glow. Now the cool thing is once they turn off the light on this thing should glow for a while on its own, hopefully. So we're going to see how that works. So right now I'm in some uncharted territory, so we'll see how it works, and maybe, just maybe, I could have gone around the outside with it, but I really didn't want to do that. So I think the best bet's maybe just kind of do this along the top of it. Just kind of make sure you got enough paint in here. I may have to put a little more paint to it. So I want it to be kind of coated in there, and you don't want it so thick that you can't see the light through it, but let's see if we can still see the light through it here. It's really kind of hard to see. I may have to thicken it. I may have to thin it out just a hair, because I don't want it so thick that you can't see the light, but I also don't want it so thin that you can't, you know, that you really can't use it. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. First off, we're going to turn off this light. Second, we're going to thin our brush out and see if I can pull off some of this paint and just leave a greenish cast inside of it. I would have thought about seriously using either a glass jar, which would have worked really well, but I didn't have one on hand, or just kind of a what you call it. See, we got all this glow in the dark paint. Now this is some cool paint, it really is. But I don't want so much of it that I can't see into it. So what we're going to do is I just want enough to kind of hint at it being green. You could have used a green glass, but I didn't have one of those on hand either. So, tell you what we're going to do. We got to test it some way. So what we're going to do is we're going to set it in there, and I don't know, may got too much paint in there. May have to go rinse it out. We're trying to figure out how we're going to do it. I want a green glow when this thing is not painted. Let me see what I can pull off here. Kind of go into it with the paint rag and just kind of swipe it down and get all this. See if I can get some of this paint out, because I want it to be I want to have a hint of it, but I don't want it to be like opaque. We don't need it to be opaque. Now, let's grab our brush again and see if I can pull some of this paint up here to thin it out just a hair. Like I said, I'm in some experimental ground. I'll be honest with you, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just going to tell you right off the bat, I have literally no clue of what I'm doing with this particular project just yet. Actually, they used a powder paint like old Christmas bulbs. I do know this. Because if an old Christmas bulb gets busted, you can see it. So I want it to be where this thing will show a little bit of green when you turn it on. But when you turn it off, I want it to glow just a hair. So let's see how that looks in there. Now let's turn off the light and test it and see how that looks in the dark real quick. Actually, that's sort of cool looking. We'll go with that. I'll buy that. So, we're going to let our jar dry, and we're going to work on the rest of the project. That's not too bad. I like that. Now, we can play with that. let's hook our glue gun, turn the glue gun back on, and I'll show you what we're going to be doing to put together the rest of this. So as you can see, we've got our Tesla coil here with its wire made from a clothespin spring, by the way, going to the jar lid where our jar is going to fit, and our glue gun or candle is going to fit right here, our little votive lamp. Now I've got to let the glue gun heat up, and while we're doing that, let's look at some options here for the next part of this. And in this case, that would be the cog. So we're going to set this over here while the glue gun's heating up, because we're not quite done there. And let's lay out our cogs and kind of lay them out in the way we want them, because I've got to do some things. There's some things that are going to have to be done. Alright, pop open a new bag of cogs. Oh, I have a bag of cogs open. Ain't that nice? I know, shouldn't be saying ain't. Whatever. Now, let's see what we got in here. Well, we've got this washer-shaped thing, and I might use that at the very base. You know, you could even put them up like this if you wanted to have them kind of geared in. Put a box or something up there. That would look actually kind of sort of cool, really. Don't know. Do I have a box that we could do this with? See, I have an Altoids tin, but I really don't want to use my Altoids tins. Wait a minute. Wait a minute and hold the phone. I've got this. Now that's going to be a little bit big for what I need. No, I think I'll just put the cogs up on the surface itself. So, but still, before we do that, I've got to treat these cogs and figure out which ones we're going to use. So, let's look at this. I think maybe one of these, we want one big central cog. So it kind of fits in like so. And maybe another one kind of, well, you don't want it layered up like that. Now that would actually be kind of cool. Looks more like those in the middle now look like bearings. That would be actually very cool looking. Kind of like a stack of little gears right there. Food for thought, isn't it? I am going to put these two together. I don't know about the other two. But we may glue a couple like this in between or something. We'll figure it out. Alright. Well, what we're going to be doing right now, we're going to get our brush out again, because we got to dry brush in and clean it off some of this wintergreen. The reason I'm going with that is I want something that looks like corroded copper, and this wintergreen's about as close to a verdigris patina as you're going to find. Thank you to the Cog is Dead for alerting me to that word. So, what we're going to do is just get a hair's breadth of it and just kind of dry brush that down. And let's hit this thing. Oh yeah, look at that. Ain't that so cool looking? Now it looks like a rusty old gear, like a corroded old gear, and that's perfect. Now we'll do the same thing here. Just kind of tap it. Now, I will leave one or two of the cogs brass just because, well, just because. But I'm going to make like a kind of a triple gear right here that's going to be fit into place. And I want it all to be corroded like it's like an old aged mainspring type deal. Now, we're going to paint, I think, one more. I don't know. I think we've got enough of those painted. I'm going to leave a couple of the smaller gears in copper. So we'll put these over here and I'll figure out what we're going to do with them. Now you'll notice I'm not putting the clock face on here. It doesn't really fit with this project. Now, go ahead and put up the rest of these. I like the way that green kind of pops on that copper, though. I actually like that. That looks very cool. Now, we're going to go ahead and glue this into place on our base. After I put up this paint so we don't get verdigris patina all over the washing machine and my wife shoot me with a ray gun or something. So, the first thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and put our central gear in place. So what we're going to do is first I'm going to get a new glue stick because we're out of glue. We're running low. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up here. I'm going to put just a little bit along here between the things, trying to keep them from getting my fingers with the hot glue, because that would not be fun for me. And lay that into place. And hopefully it'll hold. Now, this gear here, on the back side of it, the unpainted side, the copper, or the brass looking side, and that will fit in. I want it to fit in right here, and hopefully that'll work. I think my glue is not quite hot enough just yet because it's peeling. Hopefully that other one on the bottom will stay. I will put some glue down in the middle since that's kind of a sea surface, and we're gonna have a bolt over the top of it anyways. It's got to look like an actual machine, you know. So, matter of fact, if you wanted to, you could just kind of fill this in, and that'd probably help hold it in. The only thing you really want seeing in the hub of this gear is those bearings, and that's even in itself going to be a kind of a deep sort of thing, because we're going to put this little tiny corroded gear on top of all that. See, now, got kind of a planetary sort of triple rotary going on. Now what we're going to do is we're going to glue this one into place. This one's going to fit in maybe right there. So let's go ahead and put it in place. And kind of fit it to where we want it. Now, this one here should actually be able to fit. I want it glued right in place like that, so that way it looks like it's maybe affected by something else. So we'll glue it right up next to it here. That way it looks like maybe it's being affected remotely or indirectly by the other gear. Now, I could throw another cog on there, but I think maybe, I don't know, maybe we need one more for balance. I'm going to leave it brass. I'm going to leave it natural color too. In this case, I'm going to use a washer gear, and maybe it's bolted into place to help kind of regulate it. It's kind of a regulator type gear sticking up, and it'll be hanging just a little bit over the side. Now, this is also a bit of an experiment. I want to see if this thing, when the light is turned off, whether it will actually, what's the word I'm looking for? Got to put a lamp or something, put something in here, and we're going to grab, for that, we're going to grab another bottle cap, I think. Like I said, I went into this not even knowing exactly how I was going to accomplish it. I had some ideas, but I wasn't quite sure. So, there is that. Let's see. There's a little kind of a gunmetal gray sort of a Gatorade Zero container. Let's see if that'll hold our thing. Yeah, it'll hold it just. That's fine. That'll be fine. All right. And now we will fit this into the middle here to hold our gears. Let's turn on our light, and let's see if our jar fits in place, or did I just make a big mess? It could be either one at this point. Okay, that's problematic. That is real problematic. Apparently the glue wasn't quite warm enough going onto this, and it did not hold. So we're going to have to peel this loose. Sometimes you might actually have to use another type of epoxy or something to get this to work. In this case, I suspect it's the paint that was holding us up. Okay, did it seriously dry before I got it done? Ugh. It's going to be a nuisance. Well, if you have to, you have to. I may end up having to use Gorilla Glue or something. Because this hot glue, for some reason, for whatever reason, is not hanging on, not holding on to this part. And that's kind of a problem in and of itself. Now, you could, I guess, put a bolt through it and hold it down. But that in itself is kind of a nuisance. I'll have to plug this back in because this is going to be a problem. Something tells me this is going to be a kind of a big bugbear of a problem. See what we'll do. I'm going to put it on the wood side this time. And I'm going to really just over glue it just to make sure I've got enough glue on it when it goes on. And hopefully don't shake everything up. Now, yes, I know it's a little off-center, but this whole project's a little off-center. Now, you may have to be gentle with it, but that should hold it, I hope. Let's see. One thing we've learned is that apparently paint doesn't... You have to be real ginger with it. Oh, that's... Oh, that's marvelous. Look at this, guys. That is a... That, my friends, is a steampunk lamp if I've ever seen one. Let's take a look at it from the... Let's take a look at it without the light on now. Oh, eerie. What do you think, guys? Now, let's see if we can remove this without tearing this project all to pieces. And remove this bit of stringer. Turn this off again. And put this back in place because I want to check something. Remember, I painted this glow-in-the-dark green. So I'm now kind of curious as to whether it's going to glow in the dark, you know. Let's see. Not so much, but it's still it looks very cool in the light, and in dim light that looks really sharp. So I'm happy with that. It is an eerie shade of green, and I think that is a magnificent lamp. So there you are, a steampunk lamp for the next part of our steampunk month of... If you like this video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to get notified, and I will see you guys on the flip side. Don't forget to follow us on Pinterest, Patreon, and Facebook. And ta-ta! Bye-bye!